Hey, all my roadies. So I have a case for you that took place in Georgia. Matter of fact, this case has taken 34 years to come to a conclusion. So 34 years after Mary Philbong was murdered and killed in Georgia and left in a field, her murderer finally pled guilty and was sentenced to life in prison this past Tuesday. Larry Pagett is a 60-year-old Indiana over-the-road truck driver who pled guilty on Tuesday to the murder of Mary. Because the murder was 34 years old, they had to go by the laws that were in place in Georgia back during that time. So unfortunately, he's going to be eligible for parole in 7 years or less. Now, if he had been sentenced today, as if the murder took place recently, and he had been convicted underneath the new Georgia laws, he would have gotten 30 years to life in prison. But because the murder happened 34 years ago and they have to go by the laws that were on the books in Georgia, he could be eligible for parole as early as 7 years. So when this incident took place back in 1989, Larry was 28 years old and Mary was 23 years old. Supposedly they had a sexual tryst, and he was supposed to pay Mary for her services. When he paid Mary for her services, she refused to give Larry back his wallet. That's when the situation escalated and Larry wound up strangling and killing Mary back in 1989. So why did it take so long for them to find the killer, and how did they find out that Larry was the person that killed Mary? So it took several police agencies and a DNA company to figure out that Larry was the person who killed Mary, and it was through reverse DNA technology. They wound up having one piece of DNA left from the sample of Mary's case, and they took it to Florida to a DNA company down there to have them run it. Now, they told them that it could take several months up to a year before they could get the results, but they wound up narrowing it down to a family member of Larry's who was a distant cousin, and from there they were able to narrow down the DNA to Larry Pagett, and that's how they figured out who he was. He was arrested last year, and last Tuesday is when he finally pled guilty and was sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Mary. With the advances in DNA technology, this is not the first case that we've heard of over the last 2 years of a truck driver being nabbed in a murder that happened 20, 30 years ago, and I have a feeling we're going to be hearing a lot more cases like this. But anyway, I just wanted to share this with you. I thought it was a great story, and thank goodness that Mary's family finally got justice after 34 long years. All right, be safe out there, my roadies, and behave yourself out there. Don't get in any trouble.